the feel free to comment side. So,
Okay.
so we're gonna play it, and where is? Oh my goodness! Oh, there we go. And scroll up. Okay, from hit the music button. From the album "Songs in the Key of Christ," Faith in the Lord. Plug it in. Okay. We really do need Boston's best engineer here, because this background, this spare one is not making it. You're okay.
It's been a long road getting from there to here. It's been a long time, but my time is finally near. And I can feel the change in my life right now. Nothing's gonna stand in my way, and it's not gonna hold me down no more. No, he's not gonna hold me down. It's been a long night trying to find my way. Been through the darkness. Now I finally have my day, and I will see my life come alive at last. I will live His truth, and they're not gonna hold me down no more. No, they're not gonna change my mind.
from the album Songs in the Key of Christ. I've got faith in the Lord. Okay. I have got my ego sufficiently strapped down. We've given him a lollipop and a can of ginger ale, and we put on the TV. He's watching one of his favorite shows. Let me have it. Let's start with Brother Wolf.
What's up? About the song. I enjoyed it. I think a lot of modern songs, their rhythm is very choppy and they're kind of random. So I like songs that have a little bit more of a flow to it, a little bit of a kick to it. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay, Sister Nira.
Honestly, this is probably my favorite one so far. And it's giving Barlow Girl, but black. And I love it.
Wow. Bishop?
I don't like it.
Well, then I'll come back to you. Brother Dan?
I agree with Nira. This is my favorite one so far. And maybe it's because it sounds original to me. I don't know if it is, but I've never heard that music score before. But, you know, I got to give credit where credit is due, and black voices are just incredible. I could listen to that soulful sound just all day and half the night, you know. Up until about 10 o'clock. You know.
Well, you are Caucasian, so that is about the time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm white. That's as late as I go.
Yeah. 10:01 on a good day.
That's right.
And the party don't start till 11:30 for me, so. Yeah.
That's right.
What y'all waiting for, 11:30? We're going to do it 11:30.
There was a party that some of our mutual friends used to attend every year over on Hunt Street in Brockton, and the general advice was you have to know when to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I grew up in that world, so yes.
Yeah.
All right, Bishop.
I'm going to just pick through it. These are the things that I actually liked about it, as opposed to going through what I did like about it. These are the things that I liked about it. I love the lyrics. The beat of the song was incredible. The vocals, well, spot on. The writer was just horrible. He's just a terrible guy. He's just a terrible guy. He's just horrible. You know, I happen to know him personally, and the writer is just.
Yeah.
I've got to agree with everyone else. Of all of the songs that I've heard so far from you, that is by far the best one.
Wow. Thank you. There is a country version.
I don't want to hear the country version.
No one does. Except
quit while you're ahead.
I'm quitting while I'm ahead.
Yeah.
Quit while you're ahead.
And I got some advice from a dear pastor who said, "Well, it's good, but you got to find the voice for the song, not just the lyrics for the song, but the voice for the song." And so after we had a telethon last Sunday where Bishop sang, oh my goodness, y'all, I may be writing, but he's a singing. he laid that song out. And it was just a great time. The telethon did fantastic. We thank everybody that called in and supported. And Boston Praise Radio actually got a proclamation from Boston City Council, gave us a proclamation of representing the good work that we're doing here. So it was just a phenomenal.
Awesome.
So needless to say, when I went home, I couldn't sleep. And so I said, let me go back at this one. So I went back into the Writers Guild, and I went back into the program, and I just
tweaked it.
Yeah, tweaked it. And about 2:36 on Monday morning, I was done. Because when you start tweaking, man, it takes a minute. And
Tweaker.
yeah. Oh yeah. So, but yes, I actually do agree with everybody. This is probably the best one that I've done. Which is not to say, because there's more out there, but just this one is really it is very good, and it's actually dedicated to my mother.
Awesome.
Aww.
Awesome.
It when I first
That's great.
Yeah, when I heard it in my head, it is my mother, because and it's amazing that Chaplain Nera took us in the direction this morning that we're on, because it's only faith. If you asked her how she was able to do it, she would tell you in a heartbeat, I can't do this. It's my faith in God. It's my faith in the Lord. There's no way I could do the things that I do as a mother, as a woman, because this is the thing that people don't understand. There's a woman's mindset and there's a mother's mindset. And they're not necessarily the same, and they're not necessarily different. But from a guy point of view, I understand that when the tractor falls on the son, the mother picks the tractor up off the son. I get that. I don't know that the father could do it. He's going to try to get the tractor started, which is going to make the matters worse. Mom just picks the tractor up off and kicks the son out from under it and doesn't think about it. So I when I asked her, and she said it's her faith in the Lord that drives her. She can't there's no way she could do any of this if she didn't have faith. So that was the driving force behind this particular song.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So let me give you a fun tidbit, and Bishop can correct me if I'm wrong. There is not a single time in the Bible where God did not immediately respond to a woman's prayer.
Good God Almighty.
Now, not answer the prayer, but respond to it in some way that she knew he was there.
Wow.
And present.
Chills.
Because the thing about it is a woman's faith is absolutely the only thing that carries us on. It's the only thing. There is nothing else that can do and supply what we need to actually continue on. Because if you think about it, a woman is so vulnerable to everything. And that was part of the design. We were designed to be protected. And we have
wait. Don't gloss over that. Do not gloss over that, because that flies in the face of everything that Hollywood and the news media and the society
Feminism.
had been saying since the 1890s, since the Roaring 20s, all the way to the 50s, the 60s, and then, of course, the 70s. What you just said flies in the face of all of that.
One of the points I am going to make in my sermon is women were designed to be delicate. And that is not what we think it is. I am not delicate like a rose that needs, the perfect pH soil and the perfect lighting and all these things, and oh no, if you give me too much water, I'm going to wilt and faint and die. Like, no, we're not delicate like that. We are delicate like fine china. It is beautiful. We're not granite. Granite is this strong, immovable material. China is not. You drop it, it's going to shatter. But we are delicate in the point that we want to be handled with grace and care and delicacy that is not taught. It can only be the instinct in us from God the Father. And we are delicate, but because of that delicacy, we can be so much more beautiful and special. And that is something that we're not taught. Because the feminine, this whole spirit of being feminine is not just the physical body parts that you have. Yes, that's part of what makes you a woman, but femininity as a spirit, as a whole being, is vastly different. And it is gentle, it is kind, it is loving, it is merciful, and it is so very strong that if we were not tempered by our mercy and our grace and our love, we would destroy everything. And that's what we've come to in our society, is we have had to step into the role of the masculine because someone has to. And I have felt this in my own marriages previously, that if nobody else is going to step up, I'll do it because it needs to get done. But it's not my role, and I will destroy it. I will fail at it miserably. But I might be good at it for a couple days. I could be real good at it for a couple days, but it will destroy me. And that was never my goal. That was never my intent. But I, too, am also made in the image of God. And so I have that power. I have that ability. When used correctly, it can be used to build nations. And it can be used to equally destroy them if not protected the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Wow.
I must say that my father was a praying man. My mom, on the other hand, when she began to pray, it always seemed that heaven moved quicker.
Yeah.
That's just the way it felt to me. Miraculous things happened. God answered seemingly quicker to her than to my father. It's amazing.
The idea that a woman will do some things that men would not even consider doing, and do it with grace and dignity, and do it as if it was the highest call, is not something men could even begin to understand. There is something about a woman who truly understands who she is, and because she understands who she is, she knows her role. Mm-hmm. When I'm teaching young men what to be looking for, I tell them point blankly, you're looking for a woman that will clean your crap but not take it.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you don't start there,
and you can build something from that.
Yeah.
You can build something from that.
Yeah. You know, it just, nothing else is going to matter. When you're in the trenches, you want somebody at your back and handling it.
I want to get in trouble here.
Go right ahead.
With what we've been discussing this morning, why is it such an issue in the church world with women preaching?
Baby?
All right. So here's the deal.
The wolf has a roving.
Okay, so just like we have denominations because people would rather feel right than be right, the pride of men is the reason why we do not have more women in ministry and we do not have the issues, because Jesus made it plain as day when he chose women to be the first ones to carry the gospel. Just because we take one passage out of one letter and take it completely out of historical context and original language translation does not mean we get to kick women out of the pulpit. Jesus chose women to be the first ones to carry the gospel, and I will absolutely follow his example without question.
And I'm assuming you're referring to the women who were the first ones to notice that Jesus had risen from the dead.
They were the only ones who were not cowering, and Jesus told them, hey, I'm alive. Go take this good news to the men that are hiding.
Yeah.
So, yes, absolutely.
But
whenever men should have been there, we were cowering.
But that falls short of tasking them to lead men. That's where the wheels fall off.
Educating them?
Bringing good news is one thing, and we should listen to them. But to put women in the role of leading men, that's putting them in a masculine role. There are times, as Nira said, that in a void of leadership, women have to stand up. They have to step up, and that's a no-brainer. But the wheels have clearly fallen off of our culture because of, among other things, the feminist movement. But the feminist movement was a catalyst that just destroyed our culture as being a Christian nation and a nation of sanity, which is what we used to be, and we are no longer. We're paying our legislators to sit there and debate what is a woman instead of passing laws that are of some kind of value to us. And that is as a result of the effects of feminism,
you also
hang on. The views and opinions are there.
Yeah.
So
these are mine and mine commonly shared throughout the world.
So here's the thing.
But rarely spoken.
Here's the thing. When it comes to women in leadership, women have always been in leadership. Who was the primary influence for Jesus the Christ on this earth? His mother.
Mama.
Period. Did his father teach him? Yes. The father taught him the law. The father taught him a trade. The father taught him to get up, to work, to do the things that he was supposed to do as a man. But Jesus would have learned about himself, his whole package, from his mother. This is one of the reasons why he says, did you not know I should not be about my father's business? But the Bible also reports from that point on, there was never any more time when Jesus troubled his mother. So some people say, well, he slapped her down then. No, he did not slap her down. He acknowledged the fact that what he was doing was of his father's business, but he also understood his mother's role, and he honored that. Bishop, is that correct? So, Brother Dan, I understand what I believe you're trying to say, but here's the problem with it. Women throughout the Bible have had just as much good and bad. Wives and mothers, just as much good and bad. Just as much deceitful and honorable practices based on who they are as men. Just as you can find mothers who deliberately trick their husbands, you can find men who lie about the fact that their wife is actually their sister. So you have so you have to take this and understand that God uses who God uses when they are to be used if they're in the mindset. God did not, when Deborah took over, yes, Deborah took over because no man was willing to step up. And it was to the shame of the men that Deborah was in power. But make no mistake, Deborah was in charge. Make no mistake. So I get what you're trying to say. I feel like you're trying to you're taking the easy way out on this.
No.
Bishop, okay,
Let me
Bishop,
say
Bishop,
something here.
okay.
So, as a woman, there is a part of me that agrees with Dan. So here's the thing. We have taken what it means to be, in this context, we have taken what it means to be a pastor and what leadership means, and we've skewed it from its original design. So if you take the biblical, first century Christian church, you were in houses. You were in someone's home, and you would gather there for a meal, and you would have people that were sharing a message, the gospel. You would have people sharing their talents, so you'd have music. You would have everyone bring something, but someone had to kind of ramrod the situation. Someone had to be the circus leader, right? And who better to control chaos that could potentially happen and keep things on track than a mother who knows how to handle children, because that's what kids do, and just to kind of keep things on the right track and just be that overseer person. That was what it was designed originally to be. But now we have these megalithic things, and you have one person who's the face person, and that's who we call the pastor, who we think runs everything, when it's really the board or the elders or people doing all of the work and them being the face of the work. And if you think about it, a lot of churches have women in what we would say middle management, because we're good at managing a lot of things. We were managing the home. And so we've taken this idea of a pastor, right, we've taken this idea of a pastor when really sharing the gospel is just that, sharing the good news. Anybody can do that. Everyone should be doing that. But we've taken it and twisted it into this thing that it was never designed to be in the first place. And that is where so many women are failing as pastors, because that was never meant to be what we were supposed to do.
All right, hold it right there. Bishop?
It's amazing how we take a Western viewpoint of biblical scripture. The setup was, why is it that we have a problem with women preaching? And automatically we go to women in leadership.
There's an issue there.
Yes. And it's a Western world issue.
Right.
Okay. Women have always been in leadership. If there's any chaos that's in the world, take a look at who has started it. Who's the propagator of the most heinous wars throughout history? Always been a man.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't start wars because everyone came from a woman.
But here's the thing.
Once again, that's a Western world mindset. When we look in the scriptures, when we see what Jesus dealt with, when we look and see what Paul dealt with, we can look at it in such a way that it skews everything. Paul does not disagree with Jesus.
Now, and in saying that, when he says, "I suffer a woman not to teach and take authority over man," people ignore deliberately context.
Who is he speaking to?
He was speaking to the situation happening in that church.
A mixed congregation, which already says that there were women in authority in the church.
Exactly. But they were the idea, and what people don't again, this Western thing is very good. This is why I try to explain to people. Was Jesus a black man? No. He was not a black man. He was not Malcolm X. He was not Martin Luther King.
Let's take a look for a moment, though, at women specifically in ministry. All right? Throughout biblical history, women have always taken a specific role. Okay? Without Sephora, Moses doesn't learn to be the shepherd. He knew how to command, but he didn't know how to lead.
Right.
Okay? Without Mary, Jesus doesn't learn the parables that he conveys to the church world. Without women, Paul and Silas, Timothy and the like, would not have been able to get the gospel spread the way that they did. Jesus meets a woman at a well and tells her her life story, and she goes back into the city, a city in which she was despised.
Yes.
Okay, and says, come and see a man. If that's not preaching, I don't know what is.
Well, and while you're at it, Paul doesn't, okay, get this right, Dan. The whole European church, as we know it today, was founded by Lydia, if I'm not mistaken, the seller of purple. She created, when you look at all the different books and trace it back, they say Lydia, a woman, is in charge, is the start, just as the eunuch is the start of the Ethiopian church in Acts. Way before Lydia, the Ethiopian eunuch goes back and creates what we know now is the oldest church. So if the Ethiopian eunuch being a person of color and Lydia clearly being a female, clearly in the business world, clearly standing with other, bargaining, dealing. She was a seller. She was out there. And whether you like it or not, women supported Jesus the Christ. They were the ones who fed him. They were the ones who provided a place for him to stay. And they were the ones that gave the money. Sound familiar? There is no church that I can think of today, no matter what you're espousing. If you're espousing women cannot preach, you still have women in a leadership role in your church, or you do not have a church. And I know what I'm talking about because I've been to the churches where women are forbidden to preach. They're not allowed to don the pulpit. However, they keep the church running.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Might I add to that, because we did go to the feminist movement, and I'd like to make some clarity with that. Okay, the feminist movement was not about women in leadership. The feminist movement was about female equality here in America.
Right.
Okay.
Which amazingly was not an issue in other parts of the world.
Was not.
I wonder why. It seems to me that when women know their role, and more importantly, because I'm a man, when men know their role, see, to me,
we have to give historical context before going off on a tangent and then eliminating an entire segment of people. And to make one the dominant, the other subdominant. When God created man, he said he created them male and female.
right.
Okay? It's not until the fall that there is a distinction.
Right.
After Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, then God says to the woman, okay, now you're going to have pain in childbearing. He didn't say that you would never have children. He just said now it's going to be in pain. And your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over your husband, not every other man.
And that's the key.
Hello.
Amen.
That's the key. So
Say that again.
Yeah.
For all the ladies in the back.
It's the husband that rules. It's not
Over who?
Over his wife.
Over his wife, not every other
Not
woman.
every
in
other
the world.
woman. And see, this is the problem. I know somebody. I love him dear. He's a dear brother. I do love him, but
Yes,
he
I
has
am.
he has this problem with women in what he considers to be bossy roles, and I'm not going to let no woman tell me what to do.
Then
Well,
let your mother tell you
yes.
what to do.
And that's why you're messed up now. so this whole thing, we have got to stop with the Western concept. I love that, because from the beginning it was not so.
No, no. And if we're going to be Christians, if we're going to be the children of God, then let's learn what God says.
Amen.
Oh, okay. I think we've roasted Brother Dan enough.
I let my mother boss me around until I was about 8. And then if my dad didn't tell me what to do, it didn't get done.
That's a personal issue.
Yes.
I know.
That may be, we may have hit upon the reason.
That is, but that's one of the few things I don't take issue with the way I was raised.
I'm going to tell you a quick story about my life, okay? I was 18 years old. My dad bought me a car. My mother did not drive. My dad drove her everywhere until my sister got her license, and then she drove then it became my turn.
Claudia.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just
Okay.
making sure. Yeah.
Then I got up that morning. She said she wanted to go take care of some business. I said, okay. I went, cleaned the car out, put the gas in it, came back. Mom, you ready? No. I'll let you know. She's rambling through her papers, trying to put her stuff together. I come back a couple of hours later. Mom, you no, I'll tell you. I had some things in my mind. I was planning on going to my girlfriend's house. And right around 2:30 that afternoon, she calls, says, Tony, I'm ready to go. And I looked at her and said, I'm not going nowhere. I done waited on you all day. And she gave me a straight right hand to my mouth. And for the first time in my life, I heard her say these words, and I'm telling your father when he gets home.
That's how you got to be a boxer, huh?
Yeah. When he got home, I went out to meet him because I'm like, okay, I'm not running from this. I know what's about to happen. Mm-hmm. And he looks at me. He says, Tony, he said, come with me. And he goes and he gets in the car, and I'm like, oh my God, we're going for the ride. I'm not ever coming back. And he pulled off, and by the time we got to the end of our street, he turned, he said, you and your mom got into it today? I said, yes, sir. He said, she punched you in the mouth, huh? I said, yes, sir. I said, you going to do that again? No, sir. I said, okay. He turned around and went back to our house and never mentioned it again. But you know what? That straight right hand tightened me up real quick. That I remember as if it was today, not as if it...
Yeah, it just happened. Mm-hmm. Because it was
probably stopped wondering why your dad had a fat bottom lip too, huh?
Well, no. That was not Claude Hamby Jr. Mm-mm. No, that was not him. He was a man's man, bricklayer, and a boxer himself. If my mom got loud from time to time, she might raise her voice. He would say, "Ro, that's enough." And no matter what she was saying, no matter what she was doing, it ceased.
There you go.
Okay? There was an understanding. There were there was a hierarchy. She respected her husband, and her husband was a man of God. And in such, she governed herself accordingly. He didn't do anything out of the way with her or to her. And when we miss that, when we don't honor each other in our rightful place, mother, father, wife, husband, children, there is a order that God has set forth in the home. And when we step outside of it is when society runs amok.
And this is the problem. This order is Satan's way of confusing what's supposed to happen.
Gender confused.
Gender confusion. Now,
Now, quickly, let me touch on that real quick, because I have done a lot of ministry in the alphabet community.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say one thing specifically regarding transgender. I have never once in my experience met a transgender person that had not been abused and traumatized in a physical manner when they were a child. And I worked at a psychiatric hospital for several years.
Mm-hmm.
I have a copy of the DSM, which is what people use to diagnose mental health disorders.
Psychological Bible.
Yes. And I have a copy of that.
Mm-hmm.
And as of right now, being transgender or believing that you are the wrong gender is still classified in the DSM as a mental health disorder. They're trying to change that, but that's beside the point. The thing about it is, I have never met an individual who believed that they were in the wrong body and have done things to make that happen that had not been traumatized. And I think we overlook that so very much, because when you break down identity before you even know what identity is as a child, you will never have a true grasp of it, and you will never be healthy. And I believe we have pandered to that trauma and that illness and that belief system that now it has become the norm.
so
And that was Satan's plan from the beginning.
So let me say
just tell you
this.
That was his plan.
I know I have people in my life that have children that are gay, that, well, they identify as homosexual or lesbian. I have people in my life who their children have, quote unquote, transitioned, have been living a lifestyle of transgenderism. And it's difficult. I would love to be able to get some of them on the show to actually talk about it, but it's difficult because they find themselves in a situation where everybody is looking at them like, how did you let this happen?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not fair, because we do it, but not to the. If the children, Dylan Klebold, the shooters, the parents did go through a little bit of something behind this. You didn't notice that all of a sudden your kids were wearing black in the winter, walking around with black trench coats and black everything. You didn't notice any of this? Well, I thought it was just a phase. Okay, and we saw where that ended up. So,
Yeah.
as a parent, your first job is to love, protect, instruct your children. You love them, you protect them, and then you instruct them. And depending on where you are at the time, all those things can be happening at once from the female point of view. The men do it in stages. We're in instruction mode. We're in loving mode. We're in correction mode. Women, it's all fluid. They're doing all at the same time, because that's how you folks are wired.
Waffles and spaghetti.
Okay.
I
No,
read
I
a
get
book
it. I get it.
a long time ago. Waffles, men have boxes,
Yep.
and those boxes don't touch.
Nope.
The syrup stays in the box.
And we even
Women
have
have a plate of spaghetti where you can't separate it.
right. And men even have a box labeled nothing.
Yep, the nothing box.
And y'all hate that box. That is the one box that no woman like. What are you thinking of, honey? Nothing. And that's what we mean. But that drives you crazy because, like you said, you don't have a box labeled nothing.
We don't have boxes. We
No.
just have everything piled on the floor.
Everything is talking to. Yeah, well, I love the spaghetti idea.
I worked with sex offender specific youths, both boys and girls, for many years. Sex offender specific, and every one of them, and they came from across the country, adjudicated by their state, but each and every one of them in our daily sessions would tell you they were abused as before they became abusers. Okay, so it's the cycle of abuse.
Right.
Okay, sex is supposed to be gratifying and enjoyable, but it has its appropriate place at its appropriate time. When you're being assaulted and at the same time it's pleasurable, it triggers an unstable and skewed view of what that activity is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And once again, the enemy's job is to confuse.
Yeah, and if you take away that boundary at a young age, then that human being develops not knowing that boundary ever was supposed to exist. And that's why we have multi-generational sex offenders, because they don't know.
But imagine.
They
go ahead. They don't know.
They had that boundary taken away. So in their minds, they're not crossing a boundary.
Exactly.
They didn't know there ever was one.
But imagine a mother, specifically, who has a biological male child that says, "I'm attracted to men." What? And now she has a choice. How or a biological female child that says, "I'm a man," and begins to live their life as a male.
Very few mothers have the
Dan?
The type of strength that can stand up to that.
Dan?
A father can.
I love you.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I know somebody. And I'm not putting anybody out there. You know me better than that. But I know somebody that is I know people who are dealing with these very issues
every day.
Right now.
Well,
every day.
Let me tell you. My 11-year-old came to me recently and said, "Mom, I think I like girls." And I looked at her and said, "Okay." Because I know the things that men have put her through in her life to this point, that she does not trust men at all. And she may never. And I understand it. So in my head, that's very logical. Because if men, 50% of the population, have harmed you to the point that you have been physically broken, mentally broken, emotionally broken, then there's only one option left.
Yep.
And if you desire love and connection and all the things that humans desire, then where else are you supposed to go? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I get it. And I looked at her and I said, "Honey," I said, "right now, I understand where you're coming from." And I was like, "Look, I don't need to beat you over the head with the Bible. You know what the Bible says about relationships and love and marriage and all of those things. I said, now, with that in mind, I said, I'm not going to tell you who you can and cannot be in a relationship with when you are old enough to make that choice for yourself and you are no longer in my home. I said, but here's the rule. I don't care what is in their pants. What I care about is how they treat you. What I care about is how you are spiritually and how they are spiritually, because it is God's place to deal with your heart. It is not mine. It is God's place to deal with your beliefs. It is not mine. I can give you what's supposed to happen, but I can't make you take it. I can't make you do anything with it. I said, but while you are in my home, no sleepovers. While you're in my home, I get to help, not control, but I get to help define your environment to the point that I can set you on the right track, but I can't make you choose the right thing. I said, my only thing that I desire for you is that you are healthy spiritually, that you are whole, and that you find what God has for you. And if that's the case, then I will love you. I said, if you bring home a woman one day and you're an adult and you bring her home for Thanksgiving dinner, I'm going to love her. But there are certain things I will not allow in my home. But the rest of that's between you and Jesus.
I think,
and maybe I'm wrong in that.
Well, I don't think you're wrong in it. And this is
That's a mother.
It's a mother. And this is what I was trying to explain to my dear brother. What you just said, I've heard exactly that. And one mother was so honest with me. She said, I caused this. I dogged my daughter so bad. I dogged my ex-husband so badly that I drove her into the arms of a woman. And she didn't realize it until it was too late. All of the bad talking, all of the